Hi there BookTube, it's Eleanor here, and today I'm doing a book haul. These are all the books that have come into my house over the last month. There's quite a few of them, so let's get moving. The first one came in a book box with my book box club, and that was Wranglestone by Darren Charlton. This wasn't even on my radar. I have absolutely no idea anything to do with Darren Charlton or this book itself, so I'm really interested to see if it's one for me. It looks like it's going to be sort of scary and mysterious, which isn't normally something I'd necessarily be drawn to, but that doesn't mean that I'm not going to like it. It says the islands of Lake Wranglestone are a safe haven in a world filled with the restless dead, but as the lake freezes over, there's nothing to stop them from crossing the ice. Peter has never really felt at home in a place where practicality and grit are valued above all else. He's nothing like Cooper, the boy he's always watched from afar. But when he's ordered to join Cooper out on the mainland, they find more than just each other. There they unearth a dark secret about Wranglestone's past, one that forces the pair to question everything they've ever known. So this sounds like it's going to be a bit creepy, so I may wait till later in the year for this one, when perhaps I'm feeling brave for a creepy read. But yeah, I'm really pleased it's something a bit different. It's always nice to get a book that not that you haven't heard of before, because I think it pushes you to, push outside your limits and boundaries, and I shall definitely be trying it out. Next up is a book that I pre-ordered for myself. I've heard nothing but amazing things about this one, and that is Tweedie by Emma Lord. From what I can gather, this book is about two teenagers, and they both have they're both part of families with rival restaurants, and they do the social media and the sort of tweeting for their respective restaurants, but they don't know that the other one does that, or that they're involved in these restaurants. And so there's sort of this Twitter feud, as well as a sort of romance blossoming between the two. I've heard nothing but great things, so I'm looking forward to seeing if it fits the bill for a romance myself. A book which is a sequel I've been really looking forward to, and I was very kindly sent this by the publisher, is Bone Silence by Alastair Reynolds. I read the first book in this series, which was called Revenger, quite a while ago, and it was a complex story. Don't get me wrong, it wasn't necessarily a straight out 5-star read for me, but it was complex and interesting, and there was loads going on. There was these sort of salvagers that were going out to salvage a lot of the wreckage of worlds, and there was sort of a magical element. There was a missing sister who turned out to go evil, and there was all sorts of things that went on in the first one, and this one I think is going to pick up where the last one left off, so I don't want to say anything more, but it was good, the first one, and I'm hoping that because I've read the first one, I've got that sort of basis, that this one is going to build on that. It's quite a chunker. It's a good sort of 500 odd pages, 550 pages, but definitely one that I've been looking forward to getting stuck into. The next one was one that I heard about a while ago, and I just thought it sounded really interesting. It's called Jane Anonymous by Laurie Stolarz, and this is about a young girl. She is kidnapped, she's abducted, and she is kept captive for 7 odd months, and then she manages to escape, and she goes back to the real world, and obviously there's that sort of difficulty when you go back to, the world it doesn't feel the same to you because of the trauma that you faced. But also the only thing she remembers sort of keeping her going in there was this relationship she'd formed with someone else that was also being kept captive. But when the police and etc go, they can't find any trace of that. There's no trace of there being anybody else, although she is adamant and desperately sure that there is. And so she starts to sort of look into this more and investigate, and there's going to be some sort of mystery, no doubt. It says some truths you can never escape. Now, the next book is exciting because I picked it up in my local independent bookshop. There's a new bookshop that's opened in St Albans where I live, and it is an independent bookshop, and it's lovely, and they do really beautiful displays and loads of great books, and they have done blind date with a book over Valentine's Day, and I'm a sucker for that sort of thing, so I treated myself, I valentined myself, and I'm always troubled by those because I read so many books, I own so many books. I was worried that it would be one I'd had, but the lady assured me that this one she didn't think that I would have had or read before. I wanted a romance. There was romance or thrillers. I wanted a romance. She said that this particular book had been translated before previously from Italian, but it had been done very poorly and not received very good reviews, and this is a very current translation of this book and it's meant to be amazing. So we shall see. And it isn't a book I've heard of. It's called Pleasure by Gabriele D'Annunzio. This is a beautiful penguin classic. I love this sort of corset look in the front. It says it's a new translation. I've heard it's really good, and the story actually sounds really exciting. It says the great Italian masterpiece of sensuality and seduction in its first new English translation since the Victorian era, published for the 150th anniversary of its author's birth. Like Oscar Wilde's Dorian Gray, Andrea Sperelli lives his life as a work of art, seeking beauty and flouting the rules of morality and social interaction along the way. In his aristocratic circles in Rome, he is a serial seducer. But there are two women who command his special regard, the beautiful young widow Eleanor and the pure virgin-like Maria. In his pursuit of the exalted heights of extreme pleasure, Andrea plays them against each other, spinning a sadistic web of lust and deceit. This is the first new English translation in over a century of the masterpiece of Gabriele D'Annunzio, a larger-than-life figure, novelist, poet, dramatist, journalist, pilot, daredevil and lover of Eleanor Duse, one of the most important and controversial Italian authors of the 20th century. It restores what was considered too offensive to be included in the 1898 translation, some of the very scenes that are key to the novel's status as a landmark of literary decadence. So I'm really excited about this. Next time I'm fancying a classic, this will definitely be the one that I'm picking up. This one I saw on somebody's channel and I just thought, this sounds right up my street. If you didn't know, I love a good board game, and often when my friends come round, we have sort of board game nights. We play board games with my daughter. It's something that I really enjoy, not all the time, but I really enjoy sort of getting into board games, and I just, yeah, I like that sort of idea of sitting and playing a board game. And this book I'd seen on someone's channel and it just sounds brilliant. It's called It's All a Game, A Short History of Board Games by Tristan Donovan. So this is non-fiction, obviously, and it's about the history and psychology of board games, and I think it's to do with how sort of board games actually have trended in different ways and been produced for sort of political reasons and societal reasons. I think this sounds brilliant. One of the chapters is Scrabble, Words Without Meaning, Why Words Are Meaningless to the Best Scrabble Players, and I just hope it's going to introduce me to some board games, and also some history and some background and some perspective about why board games were produced and whether they had any sort of political slant or whether they had reasons for those particular time periods where they were produced. So I think this sounds brilliant, and I'm hoping it's going to be sort of readable non-fiction, which I love. It wouldn't be my channel if I hadn't picked up the next Seanan McGuire, Come Tumbling Down, the next in the Wayward Children series. It really needs no introduction. Every Heart a Doorway, the first in the series, is brilliant. It introduces us to a group of children who are in a school which is specifically, unbeknownst to their parents and guardians, a place where they get sent when they come back from those places like Neverland and Wonderland, and places that are different, far away, that perhaps parents don't really believe in and believe perhaps there is something else going on. These children end up at this school where the headmistress also has returned from somewhere years previous when she was younger, and so understands their sort of plight, and it's to sort of help them get back into the real world because there really is no going back, or so she thinks. They're all desperately trying to get back to the places they've come from. I think this one takes us back again to Jack and Jill, and they are some of my favourite characters, so I'm looking forward to this one. Now the next one I think I saw on Harriet Rosie's channel, and she said it was a brilliant read, and it's something that I'm quite obsessed about because we don't have it over here, and that is Pledge, The Secret Life of Sororities by Alexandra Robbins. She said this was really interesting. It's an insight into sororities, something that I know nothing about. We don't have them in England, so I never would have experienced that, not having been to an American sort of college or university. And this sort of takes us into a sorority. Alexandra Robbins, the author, spent a year undercover delving into the ins and outs of this, and I can't wait to jump in and find out a bit more. The lovely Janet in our book exchange for this month gifted me 2 books, very different but both really exciting. This first one is by Megan Phelps-Roper and is Unfollow, A Journey from Hatred to Hope, Leaving the Westboro Baptist Church. Now, I don't know a lot about the Westboro Baptist Church. I think it's something in America. I know it's very aggressive and not a very nice place. I don't think the views of the Westboro Church are ones that would align with myself at all. And this is about somebody who was, I think Megan was actually part of sort of one of the founding families. So she was raised in the Westboro Baptist Church, and she has now left. And this is about her life, what it was like there, and leaving. So I think this is going to be very interesting. And Janet also very kindly gifted me this one, which I'm hearing nothing but great things about, and that is Serpent and Dove by Shelby Mahurin. This is a YA fantasy, and as I say, I've just heard nothing but brilliant things. It's blurbed by Sarah J Maas, who I really enjoy. This is about witches and war and magic and power and fighting, and I just think it's brilliant. There's not enough fantasy at the moment with witches. Maybe I'm just missing the mark, and maybe I haven't read enough fantasy recently. I really haven't delved back into fantasy. Maybe that's where I should be heading next. I've read a lot of contemporary and non-fiction, but this one is definitely one that's been on my radar and one that I really want to pick up soon. If you didn't know, in January I read another K.A. Tucker. I loved it. It was a 5-star. Both books I've read by her have been 5 stars now, so I have picked up 2 more. The first one is Burying Water by K.A. Tucker. This is about a woman who is left for dead. Something's happened to her. Against all odds, she wakes up. She doesn't know who she is. She's sort of a Jane Doe, and it's about her life picking up the pieces and trying to discover what's happened to her. The next is Be the Girl by K.A. Tucker. I think this one involves a girl moving to a new town, trying to escape something from her past. I think there is themes of autism in here with an autistic next door neighbour, relationships. I just love K.A. Tucker's writing, so I'm hoping that this one will also be the same as the other 2 I've read, where they're not just romance. There is a great romantic chemistry and element to them, but there really is much more to it. There is a really good look into the themes that she's trying to touch on. She doesn't just touch the surface, she really sort of delves deep into those themes, in my opinion. So I'm looking forward to this one as well. And then one that was on my most anticipated, American Dirt by Janine Cummings. I'll link up above my most anticipated books video, because this talks about this one in more detail. It's about a woman. She is married with a young son. Her husband is a journalist. Something happens. He's writing maybe a story on cartels, and then I believe he gets killed. Her son, maybe her son, no, he gets killed, and she is desperately trying to keep her 8-year-old son safe. And she is having to do all sorts of things she never thought she would have to, strapping machetes to her leg and all sorts to try and keep them safe. I've heard nothing but good things about this, and it was definitely one that I was highly anticipating. If I was to predict 5 stars for a book, this would be the one. Okay, just a few more left. This next one came in a book box, and I think the book boxes have upped their game. These are all books that I haven't heard of. This one is The Pure Heart by Trudy Tweedy. It says, the purest heart is easy prey. Summoned by a wealthy merchant to be his daughter's companion, Isabel is taken over from her island home and the boy that she loves to an isolated grand mansion in the Scottish borderlands. Unnerved by her gifted young charge and the house's strange secrets, Isabel soon wonders why she really has been brought here and whether she will ever make it back home. This says on the back, the book in 3 words, atmospheric, dark and chilling. So perhaps another one that I shall be waiting for sort of the colder wintry months to read. Okay, and then another one I picked up for myself is a non-fiction called Hammerhead, The Making of a Carpenter by Nina MacLaughin. This is about a woman who changed her job. She quit her desk job to become a carpenter. And it says she didn't know anything about carpentry, and in this book she talks about sort of changing her life as well as sort of carpentry, and talks to us a bit more about that. I've heard it's beautifully written and really interesting, and something that, you know, I'm not necessarily interested in carpentry. I just love these sort of stories that tell people's stories. I read one, the Honeybee Heart Has 5 Openings, which I loved and gave 5 stars, talking about a woman that got into beekeeping. I just think this sounds really interesting. And I've also got H for Hawk, which is about a woman training a hawk. I just think those sort of books really appeal to me, so I can't wait to try this one. And then a book that I've heard is very good, a very good romance series that I wanted to give a go. So I picked up the first one. It is Intercepted by Alexa Martin. This is about a young woman. She's been dating an NFL star for 10 years. She finds out he's been playing away, and so she vows never to ever, you know, date an athlete again. Although there is the star quarterback who is gunning for her, and I think there's probably going to be some sort of romance there. So I'm looking forward to seeing what I think of this. So many books. I'm going to put them on my shelf, and then I'm going to read. I need to get my reading game up, but I am looking forward to diving into some of these, and non-fiction is definitely it for me at the moment. I'm really soaking it up and loving it. So keep an eye on my channel. I've got a really good graphic novel roundup coming up soon, and yeah, loads of different things in the pipeline, and I just want to get my reading mojo back. It's coming slowly, but I'm working on it. But just, yeah, I need those 5 stars. Maybe I'm being picky in my old age, but I'm just not getting the 5 stars that I want, so we shall see. Anyway, that's it from me. Let me know if you gave any of these 5 stars, and I look forward to speaking to you soon. Bye for now, BookTube.